All right, let's get this party started. So my soap I have today, it's a Holy Claw. I have one of these, but I got a new one. I have Sublime. I've had a sample of it for about a year. I've had it in my desk at the office. And I just keep smelling it, and I finally decided to get some. And they're out because it's a seasonal item. But they had some on the back shelf and they got it for me, so I appreciate that, Shalani. Thank you for that. But anyway, I'm trying it because the one that I have, I've used it before. And it does all right, but I keep hearing Rudd's rave about the Holy Claw. It's one of his favorite soap bases, and he gets such great lather with it, and I never did. So I kind of figured I had to be doing something wrong, and of course I was. I just don't think I was using enough water with it, so I whipped up a real nice lather with it. So, and I was real impressed. Jeez, let's take some water. And one of the things that I did before is that I would bloom the soap. And I think what happened was this, it would overload the brush and therefore never was really able to get the full potential of a lather because there was just too much soap on the brush. But also I think what helps is this brush itself. This is a High Mountain White Badger, and I admittedly don't know much about brushes, although I do like Badgers because they're the softest to me. But this thing seems to really whip up more lather than my other Badgers. Could just be because it's a little stiffer, I don't know. Pretty crazy lather, huh? So a guy contacts me. He wants to know if I can sharpen his razor. He sends me a picture of a razor. This is a Johan Engström Eskilstuna. It's a Swedish Frameback razor. So he wants to know if I can sharpen it. And of course my typical answer, does a bear shit in the woods, one of those kind of things. So he sends it to me. Now when he sent it to me, it was a little bit rough. And I had to clean it up. But I have to say, and I shaved with it the first time, I was blown away. I had one of those looks on my face like, oh my God. Shaves amazing. When I was honing it, I'll always measure the bevel angle and see, how the geometry is on this thing. Now, you have to realize that this razor is 150 years old. It's from like the 1870s. And when I was measuring it, I was measuring the spine thickness, and I noticed that the spine thickness was greatly varied from the tip to the heel. And I thought, well, that's strange. You know, usually I'll see some variation, 5 or 10 thousandths. But if you look from here to here, it's about 200 thousandths here, it's about 165 thousandths down there. And I thought that's kind of strange. But then when I looked at it and I figured it out, the blade is about 6/8 width up here, but it's only 5/8 down there. These guys were way ahead of the curve on this thing. So I took and I calculated the bevel angle from the spine thickness up here to back here. The bevel angle varies about 0.2 of a degree. These old bastards knew a thing or two, I'll tell you. Because as the width of the blade gets narrower, if you maintain the spine thickness, so the spine thickness were the same from the tip to here, yet the blade was still narrower, the bevel angle would vary 3 degrees from the tip to the end. These guys knew what they were doing. $150 years ago. So this being a frame back, I've never shaved with one of these. I've never had one. I've never sharpened one before. So I did a little research on them, and I spoke to Glenn, or GS6 Gun. He knows a lot about them, and he was telling me. He said there's 4 different kinds of frame backs. There's 2 of them that are true frame backs, meaning the blade is inserted into the spine. One is where the frame, hey Scylla. One where the blade is pressed into the spine. I don't know if you can see the groove up here on top of the spine, but it's pressed in. And the other kind is where it's in there and it's held in by a set screw. I've never seen one of those, but those are the 2 true frame backs. Then there's one where the blade and the shank and the ting are all machined together, and then they just kind of pin on a spine to that. And the 4th kind is one that's just pretty much a traditional razor. It's ground, but they kind of grind it to make it look like a frame back. I think they have to probably grind it long ways to get that groove in there to make it look that way. But those are the 4 different kind of frame backs. I don't know what the reasoning behind, like when they would press that blade. I don't know if it was like, so if you could replace the blade at one point if you needed to. Maybe if someone knows, they could say. So when the gentleman sent me the razor, Scott, you know who you are, Um, it was in need of a cleanup, and I spent some time on it. I did a lot of hand sanding on the blade, the spine. That's a wonderful edge, by the way. Buff up the metal on my buffer, cleaned up the scales, but also this, being old, has a lead wedge. I cleaned that up too. Lead wedges, I don't know, I just think that they're really cool. And I'm sure that they'd be banned these days. I'm sure there'd be something about them. It's toxic and they wouldn't allow them to be used. But the razor cleaned up really well. And what's surprising about these is these razors can be had relatively cheap on eBay, like in the $30 range. Talk about bang for buck. But the shave is awesome. I'll say it again, amazing shave. The razor is incredible. So that brings me up to a question that I've had kind of been thinking about it for a while, but this particular razor, being 150 years old, definitely brought the thought to the front of my head. These old razors, they can shave amazing. Oh. Many of the old vintage razors really shave incredible. In fact, I would say on whole, they shave better than the modern day razors, at least the modern day mass-produced razors. I've talked about some of the modern German steel. I haven't been real happy with it. The Whacker was an exception. The Thiersesard, that one, I said best mass-produced razor out there. I believe it. But Jared told me that the older ones were even better. So my question is, why do you think that is? These razors from way back, I mean, even the Sheffield steels, they can't reproduce that effect of the steel. Why do you think the older ones tend to seem to shave better? At least in my opinion, they do. They can get amazing edges, stuff that I just can't seem to get on a whole, or for the majority of the time on the newer razors. See, I have a theory. I think the environmentalists ruined it. I think they have some kind of rules that they can't use either certain steels or certain processes or something, that they cannot reproduce the steel to the quality they did 100, 150 years ago. Just my theory. Comment below. Let me know what you think. I'm curious about that. All right, guys, so that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. You guys have a great day. Enjoy your shave, and we'll see you real soon.